All right, today we're going to be jumping back into the Bitcoin price action, and we do truly have some awesome stuff going on within the charts that I am really excited about seeing, and it is playing out exactly how I said it would. Of course, it's just probabilities, and sometimes the probabilities will be spot on, sometimes they won't, but yeah, you can see we did have this sweep down like we were talking about in yesterday's video. We had that proper swing failure above these local sweep levels within here, these poor highs right here, creating all of that juicy liquidity that got grabbed, and after the grab with that rejection back under, you would have had the setup for the retest of that sweep level, creating a very good structural edge for a short. And with this small grab of topside liquidity, you knew that the next likely target was going to be a small grab of bottom side liquidity, and that's exactly what happened. We came down here, grabbed all this liquidity from the lows, doing the sweep of the sweep. This is something that happens a lot, right? You get your first liquidity grab, you get an initial bounce up, but then there's a bunch of longs that are piling in here, creates even more liquidity below this low, and then you get the sweep of the sweep happening right within there before the final low does come in. And I do believe that is going to be your final low. I think this is now kind of done with this corrective consolidation phase. I do think it's time for Bitcoin to start going into honey badger mode now that the new week has started. We don't have to worry about the slow weekend volatility. We could easily start ramping up, going into Tuesday, etc. Let's talk about some more confluences we had for this low being in, though. You can see here on price, lower lows, whereas on the RSI you had higher lows. So nice 1 hour regular RSI bull div. Not only did you have your edge with the RSI, but you also had an edge with the level you were at. You can see here, nice back test of this point of control that we had been looking at. We had tested it once, tested it a second time, so now we do want to see it move away from this, right? If we were to come back down and test this a third time, it would probably break. So now let's just make sure we're holding our volume higher up within here, and then assuming we can get back above these highs, we want to go ahead and confirm the value area high now into support, and that should give us the juice we need to launch up into this previous value area low. That's what this purple line is that we initially rejected off of. If we can claim this back, right, this is from this entire range that we had been creating back in July. I want to get this reclaimed back. If we can start reclaiming that value area low, that will signal value area high will be next. And if we go to value area high, this is probably going to get cleaned. And if that gets cleaned, we're probably going to clean it all. And that's going to be your topside liquidity all the way up at all-time highs. And that is, of course, my base case, is that we are going to all-time highs right now, and I'm fairly confident in it. And one of the things that makes me fairly confident that Bitcoin is, in fact, going to all-time highs now is, one, the sentiment in the market is very bad, and two, the S&P is going for all-time highs. You can see the S&P is almost up there. It has been going parabolic after these recessionary fears that just did not play out. I think we're going to see employment rate come in lower next month, much lower actually than it was at the beginning of August here, and that is going to relieve markets, and I think they're starting to price that in already. But we do have the Fed cutting. So the Fed is not cutting because there's nothing wrong with the economy. They're cutting to stimulate the economy. So, while I don't think it's going to be an immediate crash landing, I do think we're going to slowly enter some sort of recession or depression, and there will be a big catalyst for that whenever the time does come. I just don't think it's coming quite yet, but we do definitely need to be on the lookout. We're getting into those times where this double topping structure, if it is to play out anything like 2008, we would come up here, make a secondary high, and that is where we would roll over, potentially on a large time frame though, so maybe not quite like that. Maybe it's something like this, and then that's where your final top comes in, right? There's so many different possibilities here. So I think we do got plenty of time left, and usually around when the Fed cuts is when you have the most euphoric time in markets. So even though we might be nearing the top on something like the S&P, I think Bitcoin has a big catch-up game to play, right? This chart moves pretty fast. If Bitcoin enters honey badger mode, we could squeeze all the way up to all-time highs very quickly within the next couple of weeks or so, and then we could have a small distribution here for Bitcoin, right? If it is going to be upthrust after distribution and we fail back within the range and enter the bear market here, we could still see a massive altcoin season, meme coin season, big euphoria in the markets up here in the next coming months, potentially into election season. That is my base case. This is what I've been thinking on the charts, but of course, everything's just probabilities, and there is so many different possibilities that could play out, such as a legitimate super cycle, 4-year cycle that shoots us up into 2025 as a normal cycle would, with the sentiment in the market right now. I actually don't think it's too far out of the question to say we are actually right here. And this is definitely something that could happen. I think because of monetary policy, because of the amount of money the average consumer has right now, the markets aren't going to be pumped like they were in the past with stimulus checks, but it's certainly possible with the catalyst of Bitcoin being used as a reserve asset for the US dollar. So this is something I'm definitely not ruling out. I just don't want to get caught up in the euphoria of thinking that will happen if we do see warning signs when we get up here, such as meme coins going to billions of dollars in market cap, such as news headlines going crazy, celebrities getting back into the space. Everyone is calling for the same thing. If everyone is calling for $500,000, $100,000 plus, probably not going to happen. So we got to see what sentiment's like. If everyone's still super bearish when we get to all-time highs and everybody's like, hey, this is going to be the top, guys. Everybody sell your coins at the highs, then okay, maybe we just fire on up and actually do the super cycle. If everyone's super euphoric saying there's no way this can be the top, we're going to, 6 figures on Bitcoin, it's finally time for the super cycle into 2025, then I will be cautious that this is a swing failure, and that's where we enter the bear market. So let's just give it some time. We'll go day by day. Only time will tell, of course, and I'll make sure to cover my thoughts daily here on the channel as I do like to do. But yeah, so far, I'm still extremely bullish on price. I do expect us to head up here now, flip back into some of these higher values, flip that mid-channel trend, and then come up here, flip the top channel trend, and fire on up. And then after this back test, after, we get past these highs, after we get up into this liquidity zone, this is where I will be very cautious in the markets. But so far, I have no reason to worry because everything is set up to capitulate those bears, in my opinion. I think we're going to squeeze up on higher here, and all of this fear in the market is going to flip, and that's why I'm just not worried about price action right now. I don't get fearful when others are fearful. I get fearful when all of retail is euphoric. Now let's talk about 52K, because I see a lot of people calling for a 52K pullback, and as you can probably guess from what I've said in the video so far, I don't think we're going to get that pullback to 52K. If we did get that pullback, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I think that could still be pretty bullish. I think that is around where your golden pocket is, swing low, swing high, 7.5 within there. So it would make sense on a fib basis, as well as just to take some of this wick. We have that inefficiency in the chart, but I just don't think there's good reason for us to come back there. This doesn't need to be taken because it was strong buying pressure. Price was not willing to accept down there. So if it wasn't willing to, then why, come test it again? And the main problem I have with that 52K level is we go out to the weekly time frame. We've been talking about this visible range volume profile from all the way back in 2021, and you can see that there's a big point of control that we had bounced off of. It's kind of where this bottom blue line is on the chart. So if we were to lose that, then you're going to have big resistance above you at that point, and I would be getting more cautious. So the fact that we're above these points of control is very nice. This is the one that we need to be holding above, in my opinion. If price does get back under this and we flip it into resistance, that could signal much lower than $52,000. So I would be very cautious if we do get down there. Let's just hope that Bitcoin flies on up now, like I assume is going to happen. Let's talk about some more bullish stuff, such as Total 3 over here. We have been talking about this mid-channel trend. We just kept bouncing our heads up against, and finally does look like we're going to get a daily close above this mid-channel trend. So this is of course great for the altcoin market and potentially signals we're going to come up here to test this top side trend. We're going to come test this volume level. This is what I'm going to be keeping my eye on. Is this going to fail? Is this going to be a bearish retrace on the altcoin market, or can we actually flip this into support? And as soon as we flip this into support, your next target would be value area high of the previous range bull market, because essentially this is value area low of this bull run within here, right? The top side range of 2021, and then the value area high is all the way up here. So we had been talking about this before, like months ago on the channel. We had talked about, hey, we flipped the value area low into support. Next target is value area high, but we did fail this. We failed actually at the point of control. So you had a point of control within here that we had failed off of, which brought us all the way back under the value area low. But if we can flip it into support once again, just with the rule of how many times a level can be tested and the probabilities of it breaking after it gets tested multiple times, the fact that we already tested the point of control twice, likely if we are to backtest this, your point of control will get broken at that point and you will go to value area high, and this could be a massive run in the altcoin market similar to what we had in 2021. So definitely a big chance that the most violent part of the altcoin season is ahead of us, especially after this big drop down we had. This could be what you consider to be an expanded Wyckoff accumulation, where you have support resistance flip, your first Wyckoff phase E, and then you have a secondary accumulation And then we have another phase E within here, potentially something like that. I am fairly bullish on the risk on assets within crypto, but I will say this cycle is going to be a little bit different. You can't just blindly pick any ticker that people are talking about. You got to do your own research, because there will certainly only be a few that excel, just because of how many different projects are out there, how many bad projects there are that have VC funding that is just going to dump their supply at any chance they get. So definitely do your own research on altcoins. I'm not going to give out any picks, but certainly if they're outperforming the Bitcoin pair right now, they would likely continue to outperform the Bitcoin pairs. So that's the main thing I would look at. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the market right now. Let's see if Bitcoin can go into honey badger mode and flip this 61, 62.5-ish level into support, get back above that daily EMA and start accepting this range. And I think at that point you will be pretty certain that all-time highs is your next target, and everything is aligned for that to happen. But if you have any questions about anything I talked about, or just want to join the community for this channel, link to my Discord is at the top of the description down below. Below that link is a VIP Discord specifically for leveraged trading. It is not a signals group. It is there for you to learn. I am trying to provide as much of my own time and value as possible, and that's why it costs some money, but it is 50% off right now. Only $20 for your first month. So definitely go ahead, click on that link, check it out, decide for yourself if it's worth the money or not. Also below those Discord links are a bunch of exchanges that I am partnered with, some of which have exclusive limited time events going on right now for anyone that uses my referral link to sign up. So don't miss out on that. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.